Pam here, coming to you from Favored. May is Maternal Mental Health Month. Yes, it is a thing. Did you know that women of any age, race, culture, and income level can experience perinatal anxiety, depression, and other mood disorders? That symptoms normally start to develop when a woman is pregnant and through their first year after childbirth, and that there are well researched and well effective methods for which a person can recover. There is. And this is where Maternal Matters Favorite come in. We provide counseling, support groups, and a life skills program to parents and backing them up while they're balancing out parenthood and life all at one time. Remember, there's no manual to parenting, but there is a tribe for every parent. We hope that you join us.
I love my daddy. He gives me hugs and kisses when he wakes me up. He helps me make mommy's tea in the morning. He always reads a book to me before bedtime.
I Love My Daddy is a heartwarming children's book about the special bond between a little girl and her father. It follows a day in the life of a little girl and her daddy. Produced for audiobook by Angie B. Productions.
Narrated by me, Ramona Young.
And narrated by me, the Queen B, Angie B.
Hey, family. This week, we are going to chat about anxiety. That's something that is very common, very prevalent, even to the point that 5 to 10% of children suffer with anxiety disorders. So, I hope I didn't just shut down my Facebook Live because I closed the tab. So if that is the case, my apologies. No, okay, we're still rolling. But I wanted to give you some information about anxiety, tell you some of the common medications, the symptoms, the signs, all that good stuff, so that you are well informed. And I also want to talk to you about high functioning anxiety and what that looks like. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, anxiety is a fear or worry, or set of fears or worries that something bad is going to happen, that bad things are around the corner, or a fear or worry that is too intense or strong for the situation. So being worried about something, extremely worried about something that's minor. Anxiety has lots and lots of symptoms and looks a little bit different for everybody. It is it's got physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, a little bit of everything. So having that intense fear or worry, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, trouble concentrating, being jumpy or hypervigilant, having trouble breathing, feeling faint, dizzy, lightheaded, trembling or shaking, sweating, trouble falling or staying asleep, muscle tensions and aches, having a rapid heartbeat, so like your heart just pounding, nausea, stomach aches, avoiding people, places, and things, clinging to safe people, repetitive rituals, thinking that danger's everywhere, or again, like I said, worrying too much about bad things happening. Anxiety is often a co-occurring disorder, which means that it comes along with something else. It's one of the major symptoms of PTSD. It also goes hand in hand with depression a lot of times. Generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. There are lots of other disorders that can be co-occurring. Sometimes substance use disorders go along with anxiety because people try to self-medicate. So, let me go over to Facebook Live so I can check for comments or questions, if there are any. Okay, so if you see me looking down at my phone, I'm checking for that because it's easier for me to see it there than try to do it on the screen. All right, medication. There's lots and lots of different medications for anxiety. Because there are so many different things that can contribute to it, there's different types of medications. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the breakdown of what type it is. I'll do that on another Lunch and Learn. But let me give you some of the common ones. Of course, Valium, which is an old school original medication for anxiety. Ativan, Xanax, Inderal, Sectorol, Zebeda, Pristiq, Cymbalta, Effexor, Lexapro, Prozac, Celexa, Tofranil, Elavil, Buspar, Vanspar, Seroquel, Risperdal, Abilify, Atarax, Vistarol, Somnax, Marplan, and there's several others, but those are some of the more common ones. Now that may be a combination of things, especially if you have a co-occurring disorder. You may have a combination of medications that's used to help treat your anxiety. If you have anxiety and depression, they're probably going to give you a mood stabilizer to go with your anti-anxiety medications. And things like that. So your meds may look a little bit different, and it may not be one of the ones on the list, but those are some common ones. They're there to kind of help calm those fears. Some of those also will help you sleep, and just kind of relax a little bit. Seroquel is often prescribed for multiple things, especially if you have trouble sleeping. So be aware that some of those anti-anxiety meds may make you drowsy. Treatment modalities for anxiety: cognitive behavioral therapy, interpersonal therapy, and antidepressants and mood stabilizers, like I just mentioned. So cognitive behavioral therapy focuses on the relationships between your thoughts, your feelings, and behaviors. Interpersonal therapy focuses more on the relationships that you're in and that are in your life. So your interactions with the people around you. Okay, so let's talk about some causes. So anxiety can be caused by one thing, multiple things, or a combination and group of different things. It is sometimes caused by genetics. If you have a close family member who has anxiety, you may be more prone to deal with that. So if a parent, a sibling has anxiety, you may find yourself dealing with that more so than someone who doesn't. It can be caused by environmental stressors, a lack of stability in your environment. It can be caused by life events, by past trauma, and things like that, because again, it's fear, it's worry. So anytime negative things happen, there may be associations with that thing that cause you to worry or fear. Now, there is a such thing as good anxiety. It's the worry that makes you question, did I turn the stove off before I left the house? You know, that kind of thing. So some of that worry and fear is normal, but when it interferes with your overall ability to function, when it's debilitating and you can't go outside your house because you're too afraid that something bad is going to happen, when you can't introduce yourself to other people because you're worried about being embarrassed, or that they're not going to like you, or something bad is going to happen. Again, you think about all the things that could go wrong, all the what ifs, and those thoughts start racing, and now you're not even able to complete the task that you were trying to complete. So again, it can be caused by lots of different things. If you find yourself dealing with anxiety, again, remember that it is something that everybody experiences at some point or another. There's different types, so let's talk about some of those. Separation anxiety is extreme worry that something bad will happen if a child is separated from their parent. This can also apply to other relationships, but it's typically with children and parents. Think about when you are taking your child to school for the first time, or they're starting daycare, or going up to a sleepover for the first time. That's where they're going to experience that kind of anxiety. And some of that, again, is normal because it's a new situation. There's a little bit of worry, like, I don't know what to do in this situation. It's a new experience. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But if it's to the point where they literally cannot leave your side, or you can't leave them, or there's that interruption of functioning, that's when it's more than just healthy anxiety, okay? Generalized anxiety, which is probably the most common type, is having extreme and constant worries about a lot of different things or about everything. Where, you know, people you say, oh, you're just a worry wart. You worry about everything. It's people that are constantly on edge about bad things happening. They catastrophize, and everything is the worst, and gloom and doom, that kind of thing. Before I go there, let's rewind. Social anxiety, extreme fear of being humiliated or embarrassed in social situations. That one is common as well, to varying degrees. Sometimes it can be very mild and sometimes very severe. Phobias, which is where I was headed, are all also under the umbrella of anxiety. Any of those things that you have unrealistic and extreme fears of situations or things. Snakes, flying, heights. I remember seeing that show that used to come on, I think TLC, where a lady was afraid of cotton balls and like would generally collapse within herself if she was around cotton. Panic is also under the umbrella of anxiety. Having a panic attack and panic disorder are a little bit different, because you can have a panic attack without having the disorder. So if you have panic disorder, you definitely have anxiety, but this is the debilitating kind, where you literally have breakdowns and meltdowns where you can't function, where you feel like you're having a heart attack because of the physical feelings of anxiety, where your heart is racing, beating out of your chest, your palms are sweaty, you're nauseous, you're about to throw up, or you may even pass out. It's literally where you shut down. Let's see. I also forgot to mention that sometimes there is no specific cause for anxiety. it can be just out of the blue, but also things like chronic illness, chemical imbalances in the brain, bad experiences, stress, pressure to perform, all those kinds of things can cause anxiety. So definitely be mindful of those things if you have anxiety or if you're dealing with it. Again, some anxiety is healthy, is good for you, is good to experience because it helps keep you safe. So checking to see if you lock the door or you turn the stove off or you unplug the iron. Those are great things. I think that's most of the basics about anxiety. So I want to talk to you now about high functioning anxiety. And I haven't seen any questions in Facebook, so I'm going to keep rolling. So high functioning anxiety may look a lot like you. And I want to share my screen and show you what that may feel like. Give me just 1 second. All right, so if you have high functioning anxiety, on the outside, you appear to be high achieving or an overachiever, proactive, organized, very social, appear to be calm all the time. You meet your deadlines, you're very hardworking, just you seem to have it all together. But on the inside is where all of the fear is, all of the worry. You have a fear of failure, you're a perfectionist, you're very self-critical, you have racing thoughts, often exhausted or fatigued. You may be a yes person who people pleases. You're afraid of disappointing others, and you procrastinate when you're stressed. So if you have any of these signs, you avoid situations because of anxiety, you like routine, you have very repetitive habits, you seem ambitious to others, you get upset easily, you're very emotional, you overthink everything. Overthinking is a sign of anxiety. You have too much negative self-talk. You frequently cancel plans. You make those plans and you're excited to go, but then when it comes to time, you're like, I don't think I really want to go. You're always prepared. You can't relax. You're a perfectionist and you prefer to keep busy. Now, I know some of these things are situational, but many of these things, if you take a minute to stop and look at it, you may discover that you have high functioning anxiety, like I did this past year. And it happened for me. It happened at a time when work got really busy and stressful, and I felt overwhelmed, like I was drowning, and there was so much to do all the time, and I couldn't sleep, I couldn't rest, I couldn't relax. I was just busy. I didn't have the negative self-talk, but the racing thoughts, some of that comes with being a creative, so differentiate there. But when you can't turn your brain off, when it just going, and you can't seem to get any downtime or to relax your mind, you may have high functioning anxiety. The repetitive habits, and I want to show you how these connect with some of those co-occurring disorders. Think about OCD. Most of the time, people that have OCD, it stems from some fear or worry, as well as hoarding. That is also another co-occurring thing. It comes from a fear that something. Let's take OCD and maybe a hand washer, or even someone who is hoarding. There's a fear that germs are going to get you, or a fear that you don't have enough, or you will be lacking something. They both stem from fear and anxiety. So you create these habits and routines and rituals. Think about people who wear lucky socks when they're playing sports, or will do things like not washing their hand because they're pitching, or whatever that ritual and that habit is, out of fear of losing or fear of the game going poorly. So those little things that we don't always think about may very well be signs of anxiety. Excuse me. I want to say this in a way, I'm just going to say it. Sometimes when people have anxiety, because it's not visible, or because it's not something that is physically able to be seen, say like a broken arm or a wound, people don't take it as seriously as they should, or as they would something else or another diagnosis. But anxiety can be completely debilitating and crippling. For example, if you are fearful of leaving your home because you think you're going to die or something bad is going to happen to you and your children, how difficult would it be to do simple everyday task of living? Getting groceries, putting gas in your car, driving. I've had clients who have extreme anxiety about driving on the highway, will have a perfectly working car sitting in their parking lot, but won't drive it because fear overtakes them, and they literally shut down when they get behind the wheel. Social anxiety. Think about being trapped within your own head and body and wanting to make friends and meet people, but you're so afraid of what others are going to say or think about you that you freeze and you literally can't. So there's so many different ways that anxiety can affect your quality of life, and things that you're able to do, but it gets downplayed because it's not a visible illness. You know, I remember my little cousin coming to stay with me for a while, and she had severe anxiety at the time. She wouldn't even order her own food when we went to Wendy's. She literally stood behind me and hid and whispered to me what she wanted to eat and couldn't say it to the cashier. We worked on a lot of things while she was here, and by the time she got ready to leave, she was able to do those things. But it took some time, a lot of patience, and practice. So if you or someone that you love has anxiety, patience is key. You're gonna need it because you may not always understand why they can't do something, why they can't just get up and do whatever it is that you do, or that you think they should be able to do. And for the people that have high functioning anxiety, mindfulness is your best friend. One of the things that I've been doing to work on my anxiety is being intentional about taking time to slow down, taking time to unplug, to disconnect from people, and to just sit sometimes in silence. The demands of my job and all the other things that I do are sometimes mentally and emotionally taxing. And when I'm trying to juggle therapy and ministry and keep up with all the diagnoses and treatment plans and all of the things in my head that I have to handle for the week, sometimes it can get very overwhelming. So then I have to stop and I have to pace myself and focus on one thing at a time. Right now, my main concern is being present in this session with this client. Everything else can wait. It'll get done. that self-talk is hugely important. Mine wasn't ever negative, but sometimes I would just forget to do it. And if you don't know what self-talk is, let me tell you. Self-talk is the internal dialogue that you have about yourself, how you speak to yourself, and the way you speak of yourself to others. So saying things like, I'm so stupid, I never get anything right, I can't remember anything, is negative self-talk. Whether you say it out loud or just in your head, it's still self-talk. So you've got to be careful about how you speak to and about yourself, because sometimes that will deter you from being productive. It can not lead to, but it can make your anxiety worse. Because if you're always speaking negatively of yourself and about the things that you do and how you do it, it can lead to you feeling even more overwhelmed. It can create that fear that you're not good enough, that you're not going to get things done, that you're not going to be able to perform. And it ties into that desire to be a perfectionist. Sometimes anxiety and fear of failure can really keep you from living life. It can keep you from trying things and stepping out into things that you are supposed to do. I had a friend that was a brilliant writer, and he had some amazing opportunities to write films and things for MTV Studios. But because he was afraid of what would happen, he self-sabotaged. He quit going to the meetings, he quit showing up, and the studio wanted to buy one of his screenplays. He packed up and moved to a whole nother state because he was so afraid, not even of failure this time, but he was afraid of succeeding, because he was like, what if I do it, it goes great, and then I try it again and it fails? And I said, you'll never know unless you try. You're afraid to succeed. You're afraid that if you do great, people are going to have a higher expectation of you. I said, but failure is a part of succeeding. It's how you learn. If that second one doesn't do so great, you try again. You learn the lessons, make the improvements, and go back after it. But that fear or worry, like I said, can be completely paralyzing and debilitating. And sometimes just the high functioning anxiety, that desire to be perfect and to perform and have to be busy all the time, will wear you out. You'll be exhausted and not even realize that it's anxiety, not even realize what's going on with you. You'll just know that you're busy, and busy for no reason. You're not even accomplishing anything, you're just busy. So if that's you, sit down and take an inventory. What am I getting accomplished in being busy? What am I really getting done? Because sometimes we're just busy to avoid dealing with the thoughts that are in our head and the emotions that we have. Sometimes we're just busy because we don't know how to sit still and rest. So we just go. But there is a blessing in knowing how and when to sit down and rest. There is a blessing in knowing when to be quiet and to still yourself. And I tell my mom all the time, because she's like, oh, you need to get out and do stuff. You need to go places during the week. I don't want to. When I finish working, I just need quiet time. Because all day long, for 7-8 hours a day, I'm in therapy, I'm present, I'm engaged with other people, listening to their trauma, listening to their hurt, their anxiety, dealing with bipolar disorder, dealing with grief, dealing with all of these hard emotional things. And if I don't take the time to be still and quiet and replenish myself, then I'm at a deficit mentally and emotionally. So I have to take that quiet time. I have to unplug. And sometimes that means I got to cancel some plans. Sometimes that means I have to tell somebody, I really don't have the capacity to talk to you about this right now. Give me some time and I'll call you back. Sometimes I have to give myself those pep talks and remember to declare and decree some things, to use my affirmations, to reframe my thoughts and stop myself from overthinking. An older lady told me one time, she was like, you think long, you think wrong. And I thought about that, because at first when she said it, I was just kind of like, huh? But then I thought about it, and she was like, what came to my mind was the times when I had thought about things for a long time and got into a pattern of overthinking. Even last night, I was telling my mom that I took a practice test for the LCSW exam and bombed it. And I was mad at myself because several of the questions that I missed were questions that I second guessed myself on and changed the answers. Had I just gone with my first thought, I probably would have passed the test. But I was overthinking. I thought too long. I kept going back and changing the decision and the answer, and they were wrong. So sometimes you got to go with that first mind and trust your gut instinct. But some things you can do to help with anxiety. One, if you are one of those people that is overwhelmed and busy, you're afraid you're not going to have enough time, you're afraid you're not going to get everything done, slow down. First of all, find some time for meditation, for prayer, for mindfulness, for things that force you to slow down and breathe. Just breathe. Realize that there's only one of you and so many hours in the day. What doesn't get accomplished today can either wait until tomorrow or whenever you get a chance to do it. But don't worry yourself with trying to cram everything into one day. You're going to burn yourself out so fast and so quick. So have realistic expectations. If they're not, then you need to reframe those. You need to create some new expectations. One of the biggest cognitive distortions that I see is people setting the bar too high. And that means that you set an expectation that's almost impossible to achieve. I see it a lot with pastors. Their congregations put them up on these pedestals like they're not human, and that they're not allowed to make mistakes or struggle or stumble. And then if they do, everybody's shocked and it's just a big uproar. They're still human. You've set an expectation for them that is impossible to achieve. Same with parents. Children tend to put their parents on pedestals almost like they're superheroes that are invincible, that can do everything, have an unlimited supply of everything, don't ever get sick or hurt. And it's unrealistic because kids need to see their parents as approachable as human, because you're their first example of everything. If you are fearful of lack and not having things, again, slow down. Look at your life, look at your situation. Are the things that you're fearful of not having wants or needs? Because it's one thing to be anxious about stuff that you want and just don't have or can't afford. And it's another thing to be anxious because you don't know where your rent money's coming from and if you're going to have a roof over your head. Two totally different things. But being anxious because you don't have the newest Jordans and you got 12 pairs of shoes in your closet. Very different. That's unwarranted, But really taking inventory. Mindfulness is so key for anxiety. I've also heard, I don't do it, but I've also heard that running or jogging is great for anxiety. If you see me running, it's because my life is in danger. So if you're around me and I run, you better run with me. Otherwise, you ain't gonna catch me running, because that's just my knees and feet and that kind of thing. I had a comment in Facebook that says, definitely, I'm usually fearful about not having my needs, so it causes me to overbuy. That's a great point. And I see that a lot. People who have struggled financially, I'm on that bus too. And I had a lady that just really got me together about it. One of the ladies at my church, shout out to Sister Victoria, and I were driving one day and I was like, oh, I should stop and get some food from here. And I was like, but I really don't need to spend any money. And she looked at me and she was like, don't do that. She was like, don't be afraid to spend money. She was like, Jesus got it all. And I was like, And it really made me stop and question if I was operating out of fear in my finances. And I was. I didn't go get my chicken wings that day. I went home and cooked the food I had in the refrigerator, but it really made me think about what she said and question if I was living in fear about my money and having enough. And I was, because money had been tight, because my hours at work had changed, and I've been in my house for a little over a year. So I was still adjusting budget-wise and finding out how much things cost and having an emergency fund and being able to make repairs, and all of that were worries. I wasn't like stressed out about it and about the past out or nothing, but it was floating in the back of my mind. So it caused me to tighten the reins on my finances. Now, my mama taught me, when you have extra, go ahead and buy a little extra. So if you hit a time when you don't have it, you already got some. I do that. I always have more than just what I need, because I don't want to be in the restroom and run out of toilet paper and there's no more in the house. So in those instances, yes, I do buy a little extra. I have a couple of everything on hand, which has proven to be great because I don't have to worry about not having the things I need. Now, I don't have a doomsday prep shed. I don't have a couponers overhaul stack, nothing like that. But I have, say, an extra package of everything so that I keep that one extra package stocked. So when everybody was out looking for toilet paper during the pandemic, I already had some. I was good because I had bought a couple extra packs. I don't have to go out and buy detergent because I buy a large one. It's just me, but I buy a large one. It lasts me for a long time. I buy the big box of garbage bags. Only have to buy them maybe twice a year. So some things like that, absolutely. But I had to look at, am I being fearful when I make my choices? Am I worrying, or am I trusting God to take care of my needs? So I had to correct that. But sometimes those little things are anxiety and we don't realize it. It's fear and we don't realize it. And he didn't give us a spirit of fear, so that's not from him. He gave us a sound mind, not to be fearful, not to be afraid, power and love, not to worry about anything. The Bible tells us to be anxious for nothing, and that tomorrow will take care of itself. But our minds don't typically work that way, because we're always trying to figure it out ahead of time and work through it in our head. And sometimes that overthinking is what causes us to be anxious, because we want to hurry up and do everything. We're in a rush to get things done when we can only live in this present moment, which is why mindfulness is so effective and so helpful for anxiety. Another thing that you can do is deep breathing. That helps immediately. If you are breathing correctly and you have proper technique, you will instantly feel your body relax. And I know sometimes if you're in the middle of a panic, that deep breathing is a little bit harder to do. But if you feel yourself becoming elevated, stop, breathe in through your nose, fill up your lungs and your diaphragm, and then blow that out slowly through your mouth. Think about blowing a giant bubble. And even if you have to go buy some bubbles and practice, they're a great coping skill for anxiety as well, because they pull you out of those racing thoughts and it's a distraction. But think about blowing a giant bubble. To blow a big bubble, you have to have very slow, controlled breathing out. And that's what you want to do on that exhale to help calm your body down. You'll literally feel your body start to relax. If you're breathing too fast, you won't feel it. So if you don't feel a calm or your body starting to relax when you're deep breathing, slow your breathing down some more. Any kind of distractions help with anxiety. Fidget toys, doodling, journaling, playing with Play-Doh, silly putty, or slime, because the goal is to pull yourself out of that fearful or worried thought into focus on something else. There is a mindfulness activity that I do with my clients. It's kind of like I Spy, but it's a sensory version. So it's a countdown. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch. And in that one, you want to describe the textures. 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And anybody can do that. Kids, adults, elders, anybody. To switch it up a little bit, you can also modify that and choose to focus on 1 thing. So you could say, find 4 blue things in the room. Because in order to focus on those blue things and find them, you can't be thinking about whatever you were anxious about. You have to focus on what you're looking for. So it works as a distraction to pull you out of the anxious thoughts and bring you back into the present. So little things like that, even the I Spy worksheets and workbooks. Where's Waldo is another great one for anxiety and pictures and things like that. There's companies that make these amazing posters that have tons of stuff in them, and they'll tell you to find whatever's in there. And if you old school like me, you go back to the little children's magazine highlights. They used to have the pictures in there with hidden images and animals and stuff like that. Those are great for anxiety. Any kind of puzzles, word searches, Sudoku, any of those kinds of things are really good for anxiety. Knitting, crocheting, things that keep your hands busy, and pull your focus out of those anxious thoughts. But the biggest key is slowing down, mastering those thoughts, and facing the fears. And that doesn't always happen overnight, especially if it's because of PTSD or something negative that's happened to you. It may be a process. It may take time and therapy to help you face those fears, but you don't want to avoid, because it makes the cycle of anxiety worse. What happens is you get triggered, you try to avoid it, you get temporary relief. It teaches your brain to avoid the next time, and then it goes right back to the cycle of you getting triggered again. But what happens is every time you go through that worse, the symptoms get worse. The anxiety increases. The fearful thoughts or worry increases, because you've taught your brain to not face the fear. You've taught your brain to not deal with what's causing the issue. So make sure that as much as possible, you're facing those fears and the things that are causing you to worry. Reframing is choosing a different way to think about your thoughts. So one of the ways to do that is to present evidence for or against that thought. So if your thought is, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna break in my house, what evidence do you have for that? What evidence do you have against it? Oh, well, I have an alarm. I have locks on all my doors and windows. I make sure that I lock everything up when I'm in the house. Nobody's ever broken in before. You really have to present the evidence for and against those thoughts. So hopefully that'll help you reframe some of those anxious thoughts into more helpful and realistic thoughts. Okay, so we got a little bit of time left. I want to open it up for questions and comments. So those of you who are on Facebook Live, if you have any questions, or even if you want to share something that has helped you with your anxiety, please do so, because somebody else may need that tip or that thing. Also, tea is really great for helping with anxiety. Calming teas, chamomile, lemongrass, hibiscus, those kinds of things. Chai teas that have the more soothing effects. And you want to make sure that those are decaf or non-caffeinated blends. Aromatherapy is great as well. Using those essential oils, diffusing them into your room or on jewelry or products can be helpful. Relaxation, good self-care is key for all and any mental health disorders. So making sure that you're taking that time to refresh and replenish yourself, to refill your cup, and that you're getting proper rest so that your body and your brain can detox from the chemicals that you don't need. Okay? All right, last call for questions. If there aren't any more, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up and let you guys know that we'll be back on the third Wednesday of this month, which is the 15th, for our next Lunch and Learn. And for that one, the topic is going to be oppositional defiant disorder, or ODD. So if you have kiddos that you work with or that you know or that are yours that have issues with authority and are just oppositional and or defiant, come back, hang out with me then. If you can't make it to the live, send me your questions and I'll try to make sure they get answered during the live so that you can catch them on the replay. Also, please invite friends. Let them know about these Lunch and Learns, because my heart's desire is to spread awareness about mental health, especially in minority communities, because it's often overlooked and not addressed. And there's a whole lot of us out there who are hurting and don't have to be. So I want to spread awareness. I want to advocate for mental health, to let you know that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to talk to someone about what's going on in your head and in your mind and your thoughts, that there is no shame in that, and that even if you are a believer, you can still have Jesus and therapy too. It doesn't have to be one or the other. They both work, they both serve purposes, because some of the things that you've been wrestling with, you may have been trying to attack on a spiritual plane, and it's really a medical thing. Some of the things that you've been trying to attack medical may be spiritual. So you got to have balance in both. All right. So otherwise, come back and lunch and learn with me on the 15th. If you're around and you're free on Sunday nights, I'm here live every Sunday at 8 p.m. for Self-Care Sundays. And I try to give out good information and tips for taking care of your whole self. And that aligns with all the pillars of wellness, So we talk about money, we talk about social things, we talk about intellectual self-care, professional things to do in your workplace to help with your job skills, all of that good stuff. We talk about all of that. So come out on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock for Self-Care Sundays. And don't forget to click on the link tree so that you can see what else I have going on. All right. You guys be blessed. Have an amazing week. And I'll see you soon.
Let's Change Together. 4th annual event. Women's Love Within Conference. Let's change together. Women's Love Within can be understood as the practice of cultivating self-love, self-acceptance, and self-compassion among women. It involves developing a positive and nurturing relationship with oneself, embracing one's strengths, weaknesses, and imperfections, and treating oneself with kindness and respect. The concept of Women's Love Within recognizes that women often face societal pressures and expectations that can undermine their self-esteem and self-worth. These pressures can come in the form of beauty standards, gender roles, and cultural norms that dictate how women should look, behave, and think. By prioritizing women's love within, women can learn to counteract these negative influences and build a strong sense of self that is not dependent on external validation. This can lead to increased confidence, resilience, and overall well-being. Women's love within can be fostered through various practices, such as self-reflection, mindfulness, self-care, and self-compassion exercises. This will be our first year streaming live. For more information, please visit barnettpublishing.org. That's barnettpublishing.org. Promotional consideration for this event is provided by Business with a Heart and Angie B. Productions. It's time for the Christian Cruise, 3 days in Bahamas. Christian Cruise getaway to the Bahamas from Port Canaveral aboard the Carnival Glory. June 28th through July 1st, 2024. 32 cabins reserved. Double occupancy stated. Prices include mandatory gratuity and vacation protection. Optional but recommended and included in the price. Tickets are limited, so book now to secure your spot on board. First payment is due by June 5th, final payment by October 5th. Book now. Visit womenofgod.iuwt.com. That's womenofgod.iuwt.com. We'll see you in the Bahamas. Chapter 3. Snap out of it. Why does Sabrina just let stuff happen to her when it comes to men and her body? What mental issues would make her feel so open and sexual with no cap? They knew they were cousins after they were told, and none of them cared, including Sabrina. It was what it was, and everybody got what they wanted. Run from the pain within. Written by Maisha Barnett. Produced for audiobook by Angie B. Productions. And narrated by me, the Queen B. Angie B. Pastor Mary Hope cordially invites you to attend the Women's Conference June 9th through 11th, 2023, in St. Augustine, Florida. Broken, bruised, scratched, scared, but still resilient. Based on Genesis chapter 2, verse 22 through 24, I was made from bone. On Friday, June 9th at 2:30 p.m., the topic is Bumps and Bruises, presented by Pastor Regina Johnson. On Saturday, June 10th at 2:30 p.m., the topic is Scared and Broken, from Dr. Teresa Carlton. And on Sunday, June 11th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m., the topic is Resilience, from minister and therapist Kinsey Elaine. And on Saturday, June 10th, your MC is me, Evangelist Angie B. Your host is Pastor Mary Hope. The address is 1855 Prunier Road in St. Augustine, Florida. It's all about Jesus and Me Incorporated, the teaching ministry. Broken, bruised, scratched, scared, but still resilient. Promotional consideration provided by Angie B. Productions. Kendra L. Collins, formerly known as Lady Eagle 8, started her creative adventure years ago as a Christian rap and spoken word artist, serving Hope for the Hood ministry. Her first recorded song, Soul Cries Remix, went viral, garnering 37,000 plays, and got the attention of Misty Edwards, an international worship leader. Later, she attended the International House of Prayer University and was ordained as an evangelist at the Spoken Word of Deliverance under the authority of Apostle Loretta Hill. She found words as a gift to be used to bring laughter, life, and positive influence to people who find it hard to articulate how they feel into words. The journey is continuous. Years later, after she has taken an extended hiatus from ministry to writing books, she is excited about the new season and journey that is ahead. She says, "My life is a book, and there have been many different seasons and chapters to explore." Sounds of Proclamation, her first collaborative authored book, explores the trials and tests that she encountered in life and ministry, being a person that has a history of same-sex attraction. This book touches on hard topics such as sexual abuse, identity crisis, trauma, and acceptance. She continues to find strength in the love, grace, and forgiveness of God. The Light at the End of Darkness by Kendra Collins. Produced for audiobook by Angie B. Productions and narrated by me, the Queen Bee, Evangelist Angie B.